Thank you very much indeed. Good morning. It is 9:32 on Friday morning. Thank you all for coming to this decision meeting for the Housing and Tackling Homelessness portfolio. My name is Councillor Darren Sanders. I'm a Liberal Democrat councillor for Baffins, North Milton and South Coppenor, and in this line I'm also the Cabinet Member for Housing and Tackling Homelessness. Now normally we go through very, very boring but important stuff around housekeeping and safety, but I'm going to avoid that for 1 second just to say a few words about what is and isn't happening down in Portsea at a place called Sarah Robinson House, which people may have heard about. It has been an incredibly tricky 10 days or so for everyone, not least everybody living there, because they've had to leave their homes because of a gas leak. I'm delighted to say that as of 33 minutes ago, people were starting to move back in, and that is incredibly good news. It's gonna take a little while, but it's going to happen. As for the remaining, there are still 19 flats which are outstanding because they're involved in the riser that actually caused the gas leak. So that won't be fixed for a little while, but I'm delighted to say that most of the people are moving back in, having found alternative arrangements for things like cooking and stuff like that. Those that haven't, it's their freedom, and we hope to move them back in as soon as we got the gas back. I just wanted to pay tribute to everybody who is involved. It's been a very good example of cross-council working, and I've been very pleased with some of the comments from opposition colleagues as well, which has been very supportive, and I know the team has appreciated it greatly. So I would like to thank them, but most importantly, I would like to thank the 300 residents also who've had to put up with this inconvenience. But I'm delighted to say there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going down there after this meeting to have a look and see what the tunnel looks like. I'm also grateful, I know, to Councillor Corkery and Councillor Dent who've been down there as well, and I'm very grateful to them for taking the time as well. But it's been a difficult period of 10 days, but I'm delighted to say that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and many thanks to the residents for their patience with us. Right, here endeth the homily. So I move to the important stuff, which I'm told by my management, is the housekeeping. So if the fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room, public gallery by the stairwells, don't use the lifts. Please assemble in front of the Queen Victoria statue in Guildhall Square in order to comply with the fire marshal regulations of this building, which is run by the Guildhall Trust. Anybody who signed in the reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. We are also live on web streaming, so thank you for the thousands who've come up and talked to us already. It's also available on Catch Up, but this meeting will be live streamed, and so everybody speaking via a microphone will be on camera. Unfortunately, it's me now, but hopefully it'll be others later. The press and public, I'm told, are permitted to record the meeting on the understanding it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly don't wish to be recorded, but as we've got none of those here, that shouldn't be a problem. Please use the microphones and please switch them off when they've finished. So I shall start with introductions, and I will start on my left. Alison.
Alison Harper from Democratic Services.
I'm delighted the camera is moving. Dave.
Dave Emmett, Head of Waste Services.
Thank you. Ashley.
Ashley Moore, Project Manager in the Waste Management Service.
Thank you very much. Alan.
Alan Denford, Finance Manager for the Directorate.
Thank you. Ray.
Roman Dent, Councillor for Cotton Ward.
Thank you very much. And Charlotte.
Last but not least, obviously, Councillor Charlotte Gerarda, Labour Councillor for Central Southsea and Opposition Spokesperson.
Thank you. It's too early for those cliches from me, so apologies, you do it better. So I have a few apologies for absence. I have an apology from Maria Cole, who's one of the resident consortium representatives, and then I have an apology from Councillor Daniel Williams, who's the Conservative spokesperson on this subject, and finally also from Councillor Cal Corkery, who is the Portsmouth Community Independence spokesperson on this subject. However, Cal has sent me some comments and questions with regards to the upcoming report, which I will raise on his behalf, if that's all right, not least because I share several of them, as the team knows. So we move to the single report for decision in front of us today, which is the unexcitingly titled Local Authority Housing Communal Bin Store Improvement Project otherwise known as making them worse. So I understand that Ashley is to gently guide us through this. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Councillor. So the purpose of the report, it was to update the Cabinet member on the work we are doing to prepare our local authority housing blocks for the implementation of a twin stream recycling collection in the future, and set out our plans for improvement works to the waste and recycling provision and opportunities for residents at our properties, and also to agree a strategy for the programme of the works. And the report does recommend that the Cabinet member approves the approach and the indicative programme. So the report does detail a bit of background as to why we're doing the project. There are a lot of problems faced with the existing communal waste provision at our local authority housing blocks. Our bin store areas are not really designed for modern day waste management. They're quite small, unsecure, they're open to people, residents, not just of the block, so they can attract a lot of abuse from residents and non-residents, and this includes fly tipping, lots of excess waste and bulky waste being left around the bin stores, and it kind of encourages a contamination of recycling. So our project, it aims to improve the waste storage solutions at our blocks, and give more opportunities for residents to recycle correctly, and also meet the requirements of waste management and the Environment Act 2021, which means we're going to be able to recycle more things in the future. We have put together, so for each block in Portsea, we have put together some proposals that for improvements of their waste storage facilities and bins going forward, and it's been taken it's been done on a block by block basis. So we've considered the needs of residents, waste management and housing, and we're doing some consultation with residents, which is being fed in and is helping to form those proposals. So we've started with Portsea, all the blocks in Portsea initially, to understand what it is we actually are going to need citywide, and an indicative programme for that is outlined in the report. We hopefully will start the works in the autumn and be finished late winter. Late winter. And we started some initial reviews for the Buckland and Lamport areas as well, to start forming some of those proposals. And yeah, like I said, all our solutions have been formed on a block by block basis. Some won't require too much work, but others may require quite significant changes because of the way they are designed at the moment. And then the report recommends that you approve the approach and the programme.
That's great, Ashley. Before I ask Charlotte and Ray to come in with any questions or comments, you talk about contamination of recycling. What does that mean in English?
Sorry, that's the wrong items going into the recycling bins. So in Portsmouth, we can recycle five items: paper and card, tins and cans, aerosols, and plastic bottles. But the contamination is people putting in things like plastic bags, refuse that should go in your black bin, but they're putting it in the green bin, food waste. And where the bins at the moment, a lot of them are out in the open. They're open for people to do that, put the wrong things in there. And it means we can't collect it then.
Okay, that's incredibly helpful. Thank you for that. Charlotte.
Thank you, Councillor Sanders. I think my concerns are probably yours and Councillor Corkery's concerns. So the main question
Please
I had...
feel free to raise them, and if they're raised 5 times by different people, I don't mind.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask about the situation with the chutes, because obviously for quite a few people on higher floors, they're going to be convenient, particularly if you've got accessibility sort of issues. So I just wondered what investigation work you've been doing so far in that, and and what alternatives there could be, and what engagement you've done with residents on that. Thank you.
So at the moment, our proposals are to retain the chutes in tower blocks, and some of the proposals for the low to mid-rise blocks do include closing off those chutes and relocating bin stores. But we are working with residents, so those blocks are where we obviously foresee more significant changes, and we've been doing door knocking exercises for those blocks over the last couple of weeks and engaging with residents. And some of the feedback so far, there's been no challenge from residents, but from one of the blocks, residents on the ground floor are actually quite pleased about that because they think it might deter vermin. At the moment, bins are open undershoots, and they experience quite a lot of problems with vermin. But where we are having those conversations with people that may find it challenging, we will look to put in some reasonable adjustments, or maybe retain the use of chutes where feasible, and look at altering our proposals to perhaps in a block where there might be multiple chutes, we could retain one, and then it would one for a set of residents perhaps. So we are looking at how we can retain them if it is feasible.
Sorry, did you have anything else, Charlotte? No? Okay, thank you for that. Ray. Please put your mic on.
I'll wait till you've gone then, Darren.
Oh, no, that's not how this works, man. You go before me.
No,
I
it's
go
fine.
last.
Actually, Charlotte's got one question already, so-
Has she?
Yes.
Oh, then that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Then that's absolutely excellent. Thank you. So I shall start by relaying Councillor Corkery's comments and questions to me. The first was with regards to the retention of the bin chutes, which I think we've discussed. It's certainly been relayed to me that some people have, in blocks in Lamport, I understand, have been told, or have had a bin chute removed or sealed off or whatever, and that is not happening. If we have to do it as this is rolled out, but there cannot be any preemptive action. Is there going to be a one-size-fits-all approach?
No, it will be done on a block-by-block basis, and we will take into account the residents' feedback and the conversations we're having with them on the doorstep.
Because we've got some very high-rise blocks that have one staircase, which is a bit tough, and we've got some high-rise blocks that have two staircases. And so it's just how that works in practice. And we've obviously, well, I deliberately included a high-rise block in Portsea as part of the trial because I wanted to see how that sort of stuff could work, which is Millgate House. But yeah, that is quite important for me as well. As Cal. I'll come to Cal's other points in a second.
Our learning from the trial in Millgate House, we left the chute open for the trial, and it did it was really positive. The residents there really engaged with the increased opportunities for recycling, and so our approach to date has, when we've been putting the proposals together for the other blocks, is to, in those really high-rise blocks where there, like you say, there is only one or two staircases, it would be to keep those the high-rise ones and tower blocks, to keep those chutes open.
Okay. Cal's second point is careful consideration of how changes to external areas impact on how residents use their communal spaces. Because obviously we've got some different blocks, and you've got places like Picton and Ponsonby, for instance, whereby there's a huge courtyard at the back and a couple of bin stalls. So what consideration has been put in place for this thus far, and will be put in place for the trial?
So thus far, and for the trial, we did Picton and Ponsonby House. They had loads of recycling bins, like you say, in the courtyard, and they used their courtyard. So for the trial, we were able to put those back into bin stores and split the provision so you could fit the right bins in the bin store, therefore freeing up their courtyard space, and it was free of bins. For the blocks that we've looked at in Portsea, we have tried to take into account how they use their space, and it's mostly been they've been accepted. We have had one block where we've been to and done the engagement, and we put together a couple of proposals because their space they are limited on space, but we are aware that they use their space and their communal space for block events and parties and stuff. So when we've been having those conversations with residents, the proposals we put together they would impact the use of their space. So we've said, oh, okay, we're going to go away and we're going to go back with them with another proposal. We've taken on board their feedback of how they use their space, and we're going to look at coming up with something else that means they can continue to use their space as they do without bins being there.
Okay, I think that's everywhere, would be my suggestion. Cal's third point is the importance of continued engagement and consultation with the residents before, during and after changes are made to their blocks. What sort of process are you having with that, particularly after changes are made?
After the changes are made, so right now before the changes, we're engaging with residents on the proposals, and there'll be the engagement throughout the works that go on at the blocks. After the changes, there will be our estate services teams are all on board, and they will be doing the education and continued engagement with residents about what can go in the right bins, proper use of the waste facilities there, and to encourage use of the recycling and the food waste facilities there as well, to make sure they're doing the right thing, to ensure that the bins are collected and we can collect them because they've got the right materials in them.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ashley. Alison, could you please make sure that those comments, in as much detail as they can be, are put into the minutes, because they are quite important. Okay. Aside from the shoots, I don't have any questions as such, but I think all the questions reflect a wider issue, which is essentially the transition to the green economy and the transition to a more sustainable future so that our children and our grandchildren can live on this planet decently. But that does create issues as things change. None of these blocks were built when the concept of there being no planet B was around, and so greenery was basically something you walked on in a park as opposed to a way of living, and we have to try and do that. I'm delighted the recycling rates are going up, have gone up in the city since we resumed power, but they're still far too low. And it is very important that particularly people on council estates can play a big part in that. So we have to get this right, given the buildings were never built to do this. But we are committed as an administration to delivering the climate emergency by 2030, or delivering the way out, I should say, of the climate emergency by 2030. If we do nothing, we will be delivering the climate emergency by 2030. There will be no backsliding to 2035 and other dates, because we're committed to doing that. But we have to take people with us, because if we don't take people with us, there'll be resentment and we won't achieve the sustainable future that we have for everyone. Colleagues, I'm happy to do progress reports as we trundle along for all this, because I think it's important that we know how, when, why, where, and importantly what's going wrong, so that we know what we may need to change and what we may need to do. Delivering a way out of the climate emergency by 2030 matters to us as an administration and matters to all 42 of us as far as I know. So that's quite important. But despite those minor caveats, I'm happy to approve the trial, and we look forward to a report on this coming back very soon. And thank you to Charlotte and Ray for your questions as well, and to Cal as well. That's very helpful. Right, as this is the single item on the agenda, that's it, pleasingly, and so I close the meeting at 9:50.